Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Chanel in the City. I'm your host, Chanel Omari, and I have a very special guest here with us today. She's a dear friend of ours. She's a senior news correspondent for the Emmy Award winning series, The Daily Mail TV show, one of my personal favorite TV shows, and now a contributor correspondent for Good Morning America. Please welcome our dear friend, Alicia Quarles. How are you?
How are you, beautiful, newly blonde? You look great.
Thank you. I know you were like, oh, Chanel, your hair.
I love it.
That's everyone's reaction, by the way.
Quarantine makeover. Looks good.
Quarantine, you look beautiful as always. You're always, wearing tip top. You're like always on the trends. What are you wearing? Can you share with
Oh yeah. So this is Sachin and Bobby today. I really appreciate them. Of course, on the bottom, I do have on some like Reebok,
Yes.
like some socks, some soft socks. But Pandora Emirata styles me, so she does a great job. So yeah, I'm rocking it out.
I love how you're always, you'll keep up with the trends, but you're just like the girl next door. You're still down to earth, Alicia, which we love.
Thank you. But we're stuck in the house. We all need to just be comfortable doing the best we can.
So yeah, talk to us about, quarantining. We're all going through it. How has your quarantining been and how has it affected, being a news reporter? You're so great at it. How has that affected the job?
I think it's just been shocking, honestly. When we went home in March, we thought we'd be home for a couple of weeks, and now it's been months later. I think thank God for technology because we all had to pivot and are now broadcasting from home thanks to Zoom and Skype. But also affects the job because every second is changing with breaking news. You don't know what's happening. You're trying to report the right things, and then vanity comes into play too. I definitely gave the quarantine 15, 20 because you went from going to being at home eating.
Yeah, you're like eating on the go. But at least, the virtual like Zoom has helped us, as hosts, as reporters, as podcasters, as entertainers. Where do you see the industry going now?
I think it's going to be more of this, of what we're doing now, because I think what's proven is that you don't have to be in a studio, that anybody can, I mean, obviously you have to have the skill set, but you can report from anywhere and still do your job well. So I think all it's done is opened up, expanded our field. And before people were just thinking about TV, I think a lot of people in our field, but now you realize it's digital, it's everywhere.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's talk about, okay, Good Morning America.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
What a great accomplishment. And you've worked super hard in your career. And I want the audience to know that it doesn't happen overnight. So something like this is such a great accomplishment, but you've also worked really hard as a reporter, as a journalist, as a producer. So take us through, how are you feeling, with this moment now that it's given to you?
I feel so super, super blessed. So yeah, I'm at Good Morning America 3 as a contributor with TJ Holmes and Amy Robach and Dr. Jen, and Kat is the executive producer. It's a really fantastic team. And even coming on set that first day, everybody was welcoming me, including Michael Strahan and Robin, and it feels good. And I'm producers I've known for years. And to your point, you don't just get here. I worked for the AP for 10 years. And I've been in this industry for almost 20. So it's just a career accomplishment and just it feels right. It feels like home.
That's amazing. And take us through, how did you get into the industry? A lot of our listeners want to know, how did you always want to become a host or a reporter? And what are the steps to get into it, right? Because it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. So my dad was a newspaper publisher before he retired, and that's when papers were very viable. So I grew up in that industry, but I always would go home and watch Barbara Walters on 2020. So working at ABC really is a dream.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, and I went to University of Southern California, but got a job at the Associated Press behind the scenes. So I was behind the scenes for years as a producer, and then I ran the East Coast entertainment department, and then became global entertainment editor, oversaw a team of 60 people. So there isn't a job that I haven't done. And then from there, I flipped it and went on air to E! News because I wanted to know how to be on air. And from there, I started my own company. Then I went to Daily Mail TV. So it's really just putting in the hard work, to be honest with you. Like there's really, some people have shortcuts, but very few people do. And all of us know each other in this industry. Like I've known you for a long time and we support each other, but it's really just about the hard work and hustling.
Sorry, I mute my background in case you hear it, but totally, I'm happy you're saying that because, right, even though your father comes from journalism and you have a family of that background, it doesn't mean that you didn't have to put your hard-earned work and your dues. And that's what I want everyone to understand is that nothing's really handed to you in life from whatever privilege you come from or whatever background you come from. You have to put in the work. I remember, yes, you and I always cross circles from producing days, and I've come to you as a mentor. You've been a mentor to me of how to get, in front of the camera. And you've been always the kindest, most open-minded person. And I can't thank you enough, because I wish we had more mentors and leaders like that in the industry, especially for women, and building each other up. Talk to us about how important that is, and why is that important to you specifically?
It's so important. You just gave me chills because we've always supported each other. One thing I love about you is your hustle. From having
Yeah.
your own TV show to your podcast, you're always thinking of ideas, connecting. You've done your own brands, and that's highly important. One person that mentored me is Katie Couric. And I remember being on her show when she had her talk show, and I was doing something hard news and had these notes. She just knocked them out of my hand. She's like, you know it or you don't. And that's a good lesson, but that taught me a lot. But she's also somebody I called when my best friend passed away and I just didn't know what to do. I called Katie and she jumped into action. So having those strong women bonds, the Gail Kings of the world, you and you always have me on your shows. That's just highly important. The person that hired me at GMA, at Strong Woman, you don't get far without having strong women bonds and mentors in life.
Totally. And so important. And I love that. And I love that you also don't forget the little people. You know what I mean? Like you always are about equality. You're always standing for it. Women rights, women empowerment, which brings me to, the vice president of our country right now, who's a woman, who's the first woman vice president, the first Black woman vice president as well, Kamala Harris. And how does that make you feel? In general, and just as a woman, and how does it make you feel as also just someone in the arts? And take us through that.
I tried really, really hard to be unbiased as a journalist. I just tried not to say I'm for this person or against this person. But as a human, it makes you feel so good, like anything is possible. Now, this is a woman who both of her parents are immigrants. She's just dynamic, regardless of your politics. She's dynamic, and it lets you know, again, you put in the hard work. She was a district attorney for years. You work your way up, anything is possible. And now she's the vice president of the United States.
Yeah, that's why it's like so important also that, because we haven't had a woman in office, and it's important that we still have a voice, and we're progressing as a gender, and that we let people know that we're here running stuff still, and our opinion matters. Talking about journalism and having an opinion in politics, I don't like to get myself involved in politics a lot. It's been tricky for me as, an influencer or as a podcast host. As a reporter, have you ever had challenges between, doing the right thing and reporting the facts, and then having an opinion about it, I guess is the question.
Yes, and 1,000%. So I really try to make a difference. There are people who are, they're commentators, and those are the Piers Morgans who I work with, who I love. Those are the women on The View. And then there are people who are journalists like me, but they cross into that influencer world. And I try really hard not to put out my political views, because I do cover the stories, and you can't really say that you're showing a bias if you're covering one thing or another. So my political views, I try to keep personal, and I try to just report the facts when I'm doing it.
Right. So that's right. And that's important from a journalistic point of view as well.
Yeah.
Also from a producer, like for me, I think it was really hard. Sometimes I had strong opinions, and also just getting your foot in the industry. As I've been around as a producer, I've been around as a writer, as a journalist, whatever hat I had to wear to hustle to get there. But sometimes it's hard to get a seat, on, let's say, a GMA, on a Today Show, on Daily Mail. How did you transition from AP behind the scenes into on camera?
That's a good question. So I was behind the scenes for 10 years. And I remember I wanted to be on air, but I was nervous. I didn't really know how to. So when I would produce shoots, I would always do stand-ups, like when you're in front of the camera. They weren't airing anywhere, but it was a good way for me to put together a reel, to stop being nervous, being in front of people. And believe it or not, my first on-air job was actually at Fox News. I used to do their commentary a lot while I was still at AP. And then from there, I went to Fuse News, and I was working with Amy Schumer, so we became friends. And I became like a pundit, basically. But AP was so supportive. As long as I did my job really well there, they were like, go pursue your on-air dreams. And then from there, I got like Entertainment Tonight offered me a job at the same time E did. And things started to align. But it was really just putting myself out there as an expert and working for free at a lot of places while I still worked my other job.
Wow, working for free, which a lot of people don't realize that you have to definitely do. And those are grueling hours. And, it's not for everyone. Sometimes people say, you know what, I'd rather have the paycheck. Talk to us about the experience, on E, and how do you transition from E to the Daily Mail TV show. I feel like you're also always ahead of the times as well. You know when to, you put your time in, but then you know when to get out and move on. Talk to us about how that transition went for you, and how
E
did
was
you get that offer?
Yeah, he was a lot of fun for me. At the time, a man, Bruce Plummeter, who I'm so good friends with, he hired me. He ran, E News at the time. For me, it was like college because it was my first full on air experience, and I went there specifically to learn how to be on air and really hone those skills. So I was working with Ryan Seacrest and Juliana Rancic, and Kat Sadler was there. So these were, like really the glory days of E. But I worked at 30 Rock, so I also had in my contract that I worked for Today's Show and I would do MSNBC. So being within those walls, I wasn't limited to just doing entertainment. And I still always made sure that I wrote for E's website or for whoever. I still wanted that byline. There is a power in the pen and seeing that. But it was just a great platform for me to really hone my on-air skills, get my name out there. And I did my 3 years, and then you realize you don't want to do the same job for 3 more years. You're grateful, but you want to keep growing and learning. And so I moved on.
That's amazing. And also, you moved on correctly because the Daily Mail TV is an Emmy Award winning series, which is so incredible. It's been on the air now, for a while, but, in its first 2 years, I remember you guys were nominated and up for an Emmy. How does it feel to be part of such a great team? You got Jesse Palmer, so talk to us about that.
Well, I feel just so blessed. I love the Daily Mail team. So our first year we won an Emmy, and Jesse was there. We worked together for 3 seasons. Now he's moved on, and Thomas Roberts is there hosting, and I knew him from MSNBC, so we go way back. It's it's a cool team. Like, I cover some hard news. I work with this incredible investigative unit, Kansas Trend Zone. We just have a great team. We have a good time. We work hard, but we get the job done. And to me, it was a progression. Like, if E was my college days, this is my graduate school.
That's amazing. It's funny because you talked about hard news. A producer and I were talking about how we love you and how we always think of you for the job for a host. And we said how you transition very well. You can talk about true crime and hard news, and you could also talk about pop culture.
Thank you.
Talk to us about, not everybody can hone those skills. I know a lot of the advice I've gotten over the years is if you want to be a host, hone into something specific, be maybe a pop culture expert. And that's kind of always been a struggle for me, but we'll get there. And I've come to you and I've asked you for advice, how to transition. How come you think you do that so well? And what's your advice on how to be, I guess, more universal, right?
I think part of that is actually my training at the Associated Press. So even though I was in entertainment pretty much the whole time I was there, a lot of that crosses over. So you're still going to cover Sotomayor's hearing, sworn in at the Supreme Court. You're still going to cover, hurricanes, and they still approached entertainment just like you do hard news. I also saw, as I got on air, there's a shelf life, unfortunately, for women in entertainment. There's always going to be somebody younger than you that wants your job, and you age out of that. So I thought, I'm going to have to start to transition and do more human interest, do more hard news, and show my versatility if I want longevity. And that's what really Daily Mail has given me the opportunity to do. That's what I started to do when I would do more stuff at MSN and Today's Show. And that's what I'm doing at Good Morning America, just transitioning. I'm 38 years old.
Wow.
And so
well,
you look be a 28-year-old that's going to come right for your entertainment job. But if you're showing you can do more than that, it's just, if you have more skills, you have more opportunity, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I was going to say, you look, 38 is still young, but you look like you're 26.
Thank
But
you.
Talking about that competition, that's what I really want to know. And I think the audience wants to know is, how do you not cave into the competition? How do you not let it consume you? And how do you always really beat your own drum. I think that's what I admire about you. We all do. And you don't get caught up on who's winning and who's losing and who's up there and who's influencing. I think you really have honed that you are confident in your reporting skills and what you're doing and contributing to the world. So how did you become that way? Where does that come from?
I think big part of it is faith. I'm spiritual, whatever you believe, but I feel like God, the universe has me. Also, what's for you is really for you. There's only one unique you. And if you didn't get that job, that doesn't mean that other person doesn't deserve it. You got to run your own race. And there are times in your career you can think, God, this person's getting like everything. Why can't I get something? But you got to snap out of that. What is for you is for you. And it's also about hanging in there. You know, as an athlete growing up, I don't give up easy. So you just got to keep going. Some opportunity will come your way if you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
I love that advice. That's really because it's sage advice, and you never want to compete or compare yourself. I always say I'm very spiritual too. You know, I'm like you. I was raised similar to you, and it's hard to not share the spotlight or give somebody advice or help because you're naturally giving, you know, and you want that good karma. You don't, you, like
Yes,
you said, what's for you is for you. And I believe that what's a rejection is a blessing or protection, you know,
exactly.
so
1000%.
like, so which brings me to our next question. We're going to talk about Real Housewives of New
Okay.
York. So lots of rumors. Now I'm getting to talk to my friend. I'm like, I'm not going to answer any questions until she talks for herself. I was like, nah, I know Alicia. I don't know what you heard.
I
So
was,
there's you're right. So there's rumors that you were supposed to join the cast, which you would, I mean, would be an amazing addition if that is true. Why don't you talk to us why there's been rumors? Is it true? Do you want to join the cast? Would you ever join reality TV?
there were definitely rumors, which I did not put out there, I'd like to say. I was definitely entertaining it because I know all of those women, except for Leah. She's the only one I don't know really well, and I love them. So I was in the running. They went with another person who I know very well, Ebony. She's awesome. I think she will make a wonderful housewife. But again, everything happens for a reason because I got a different job that's really for me, and I think she'll be a great housewife. So I'm excited for this season.
I'm excited too. How do you feel about the fact that they are using more diversity in this season, and they're really taking it seriously, and putting Ebony in the front lines? I really love that they're doing that. They haven't done that in forever,
I think it's
forever.
great because obviously you've been on the Housewives, you know the show, and New York City. It's such a diverse city. I think it's time to show the diversity that our city offers. And it's not to say the women that have been on there aren't great, but she's young and she's vibrant. It's a different edition, and those women are young at heart too. So I think it's just going to represent New York in a very good way.
Will we see you at all as a cameo, appearance, friend? I mean,
Oh,
they love you, girl.
girl, I'll pop up on the show, I'm sure, because I those are like, some of my really good friends are on that show. I don't want to be a friend of the show though. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it all the way. No shade.
Right.
But we always pop up just as we're at events and we're hanging out and doing our thing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, so when we talk about like friends, right? And you are a reporter and you are a serious journalist, but then you do have a lot of us as your friends when we're in the public eye. If we get in trouble, if we don't, how challenging is it for you as a reporter? And what do you do about it when you have to report news on a specific friend or person that you are fond of that you're like, oh, I really don't want to talk about this. Does that ever happen to you?
That's a good question. I used to have this rule that I would not befriend celebrities at all because specifically what you're talking about, I never wanted to be in a position where I felt like I was being biased or couldn't report on something. But the reality is we work with these people, we live with these people, they naturally become your friends. I've dated celebrities. So I had to throw that out the window. And yeah, it's happened to me a lot of times where you've got to report on something where you're like, ooh, but I've never broken a friendship. I'll call them. I'm honest with them as long as I'm ethical in my reporting, and fair, and don't throw people under the bus, but just report the facts. Our friendships have been able to survive.
Which is amazing because it's a very hard skill. I think a lot of reporters don't last in the game like you because they have a hard time separating the two. And so something has to give. And I think
you separate it well too, though. I think
I try, right? Well,
we'll try.
you're better at that. I try really well. Sometimes I don't even get press on certain things because it is like throwing my friend under the bus and I can't sleep at night. So I rather sacrifice the press and the fame, which does suck for me because as you know, like our bread and butter is doing this, is actually reporting news or sharing knowledge or creating like what's in the know. So a lot of times you're right, it's a struggle. It's hard. It's been hard for me.
But sometimes though, like not telling, there have been stories I haven't told and I just won't.
Oh yeah.
Because to your point, if you are friends with that person, if it's off the record, it's just off the record. You don't even go there. So I understand what you're saying.
But that's amazing. That's why I always say reporting for network news is so much better than having a podcast because at least there's structure and you don't there's a limit that you can't cross. So then you're protected, the talent's protected. Talking about so many celebrities you've interviewed so many amazing people. Who would you say has been your favorite if you've had a favorite?
Well, George Clooney is always my favorite because he's so smart. He's funny. You can ask him anything. He's down to play. He's not bad to look at. I know he's been in the news for some bad things lately, but Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah.
Spent some time with him in the Bahamas, and just I think a really dope person. Beyonce, super shy, believe it or not, so shy.
Really?
So nice. Yes, just a nice, lovely human being. I've interviewed her many times. Does so many things behind the scenes that people don't even know that are just wonderful. So I really respect her. Oh, and Cardi B. I was interviewing Cardi B.
Cardi B, that is amazing.
Love her. Let's been interviewing her since she was a YouTube star. She's never changed. Always been super cool. A girl's girl. I really like her.
I love that I wanted to know your thoughts, and so did our audience, about what does Alicia Quarles think about Cardi B? I swear that's one of the questions.
Love me some Cardi B. I have so many funny stories and memories, and she's just dope. She's wild. She's exactly who you see is who she is. Love her.
Why do you think so many women relate to her at like different types of caliber? Isn't it so interesting?
I think 'cause she was this crossover, right, between this YouTube Vine star who then was on Love and Hip Hop, but actually has a lot of talent, but then keeps it real. She was a refreshing celebrity that we hadn't seen in a while, and she represents that new celebrity. So she's not a Kardashian that's famous for being famous. Not that they don't have talent, they do, but she's somebody that crosses over. She appeals to social media. She's real, but she also has superstar quality.
Totally. And as a woman, I feel like she's been so rejected at times by men and so overpowered that she's shown us as women, like, no matter what, you have to stand your ground and fight for who you are,
Fight for who you are and then be honest about who you are. She doesn't deny that she was a stripper, but I mean, that woman works hard and she doesn't shame anybody. And I like that she's out there interviewing, Bernie Sanders, and she's talking about politics. And I like that she's so New York and so the Bronx. I like it.
I know. I love it. We love you, Cardi B. Let's talk about transitioning from hosting, like, to acting. I know you've done some acting as well. Would you do like comedy acting? I mean, are you seeing yourself, or are you seeing yourself more sticking into reporting for, the next 10 years, I would say, right?
Okay, so let me tell you. So back at USC, back in my day, I knew I had to fill some credits. So I did all these acting classes. And my acting teacher was like, you'd be so good, you should try it. Cut to Associated Press, and I was doing a story on All My Children. And I was playing a nurse, and I was writing, this whole scene. So I emailed my family. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm going to be on this day. So they tune in, and my sister calls me. She's like, did you get the date right? I'm like, yeah. Turns out my acting was so bad, they cut my scene. And, AP was like, that's not what we agreed to. So I got to go reshoot it. So I'm going to say acting is not for me. I'm going to know my limitations and just stay in my journalism lane for now.
See, but what I love, what I love about you too, is that that's so confident. And that is someone who knows their worth and sure of themselves, because you're saying, I'm not going to even get offended by that. Like, I know what I want to do. I know that I'm going to be successful in this. And that's why you are successful in one thing. I think a lot of times, I've told you this, like, I've struggled, or a lot of artists struggle who come from comedic backgrounds, or like even radio, because you don't really have a lane. You're very freelance. I'm wearing different hats. I could be a producer. I could be a radio host. I could be a comedian, an actor. It's just very convoluted. Whereas you were like, no, I'm going to stick to journalism, even though I also fell in love with journalism, which is my next question for you. But I fell in love with journalism because I love the hosting aspect, the truth of it all, the justice of it all. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but full disclosure, I don't have the balls you have to ever get on stage and be comedic. I would freeze up. So I give you credit for that. Or to ever get in front of a camera and play a different role. Like, that takes a lot of chutzpah, and I don't have that. I mean,
would you say that's different? You would say,
oh yeah,
hosting skills and journalism skills are different than like someone being a comedian or an actor?
1,000%. Like, when you have to public speak, they say that's the scariest thing you have to do. I think about comedy like that. Like, they used to do, I don't know if they still do it, that comedy show where they have journalists get up on stage.
Yes. They do at Stand Up New York. They have that. That's what I was thinking of you for too.
I would say no. I would freeze up. That's a totally different skill set that you all have, and there's a certain a bravado that you have to have, and a confidence, and also just in portraying a different character if you're an actor. So I think for me, journalism is just different because I'm just being me.
Right. You're just being, what made you, at what point were you like, this is for me. I fell in love with journalism.
Ooh, good question. Oh gosh, I must say, let me think about this. Probably really early on. One of the first big things I covered was Michael Jackson's criminal trial, when he was in Santa Barbara on top of it, showing up in pajamas and jumping up on cars. And I'm like, this is wild. And I'm being paid to be here. Like, I'm being paid to be a fly on the wall of history. I love it. Like, where else do you get to go to the Oscars and get dressed up and travel the world in somebody else's dime? That's when I knew I loved it. And I get to talk to people and interview people and get paid for it and give this information to the world. It's just a fun job.
Yeah. I mean, and what an incredible time and what an incredible story to, just because there was no one knew what the truth was or not. And everyone was trying to figure out so that's when you were like, I know this is for me.
I
I
knew
fell
this
in
was for
love.
me. I'm like, this is just an incredible moment in history, and to be covering that, interviewing people, and to your point, trying to get to the truth of it. It was an adrenaline rush.
That's amazing. Did your dad ever pressure you? Did you ever feel pressured by your dad or your parents about getting into the business or?
On the flip side, my parents were always supportive of me getting in the business. When I left the Associated Press to go be on air at E, that's when I felt pressure not to. My dad was not supportive. He didn't understand why I would leave this career that was skyrocketing on the print side to go be a TV host. He just didn't get it. But I had to follow my dream. And once I did that, so proud, so supportive. Now they get it.
See, everybody, and I want the listeners to hear this. So everybody has a point where, like, I always felt alone. I'm like, oh, when I tell my parents, like a lot of times, I left BLI, which, is a top 40 radio station on iHeartRadio, to do my own podcast and to do comedy. And a lot of people didn't understand why and how could I do that at 36 years old. But when you do it and then you become successful, it's like that's when everybody jumps
Right.
on the wagon. And that's interesting that also you had to go through that in some capacity.
Oh yeah, I had to go through it big time. There's been even when I started my company, people are like, "What are you doing?" But it's the gut check. You just know what's right for you, and you also know you're going to have some very lonely days. You might have some broke days. You might have some days where your phone doesn't ring. You might have some valleys, but you just keep working, and eventually it will pay off.
Speaking right of lonely days, I know the podcast we talk a lot about mental health. I know you're a big advocate of mental health and just giving back in general. And so thank you so much also for your service of like just contributing back to this society, and you're always helping raise awareness for charities. Why is it so important to keep your mental health intact, especially in this industry? And what are your tips that you do when, the going gets tough, or you feel like giving up, or you just feel, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel?
I think of this industry, it is hustle, 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 go, go, go. Am I going to miss this opportunity? So it's kind of hard sometimes to take time just to breathe and be appreciative of where you are. And for me, it's really when my best friend, Deanne Brown, passed away of cancer. She used to always tell me, slow down, baby, slow down. Because I was just like going, going, going. And then when she passed away, I thought, damn, I should have slowed down. I wish I would have made it to that birthday party of hers. And I vowed to myself to be an advocate for ovarian cancer awareness, and to just remember, like, life can be gone like that. You have to really be present and enjoy these moments. Because at that time she had just passed away. I was going through a divorce, and I felt like I was just mentally breaking down, because I wasn't taking time to actually process my feelings and take care of myself. And so that's what I learned through that process. You just got to stop sometimes, slow down, and process your feelings, process what you need. And it's okay to have a you day or a you time or a you month. It's okay.
I love that. Yeah, it is okay. And I'm so sorry to hear about your best friend passing. We're so sorry. We're sending you love. It's because it's tough. We see you on camera, we see you on TV, and that is your job, to bring us joy and bring us news and bring us awareness, and not really bring your problems, right? So it's a tough balance because you're human, you matter. That's why, it's interesting to see how you cope with mental health, and, what
Yeah.
should we do as.
No, it's been a blessing. She was on MTV. She was really known. So I've been so supported from E to Daily Mail to now I'm working with an organization, Bright Pink, and keeping her legacy alive and talking about mental health. So I've been able to kind of merge, something that was very difficult for me and bring awareness to it in my job.
I love that. um, anything that we can look forward to with the Daily Mail, anything we could look forward to with Good Morning America that you're looking forward to? Like, what are the moments that you're looking forward to?
Well, for Good Morning America, I do love we get COVID tested every week, but I do love being on set, with
Right.
Amy and
You're back on set. Oh
I'm
my
back
God.
on set.
What a feeling. Wait, so do the guests come on set too?
They don't really, but
But
we're
who
on
cares?
social distance and we get tested. It's just nice to see the crew and just be on set. So that's been really fun. I'll be back on in the office soon for Daily Mail also, so that's going to be great. And I think for Daily Mail, more of our breaking news coverage, and then for GMA3, we do a lot. I do a lot of human interest stories and that kind of like just make you feel good stuff. So that's what we look forward to.
Now, do you bring, because you're like me, you have that producer hat internally. Do you bring a lot of the pitches in the news sometimes as a reporter to the network and say, hey, I think this is a great human interest story. I want to cover this, or how does that
1,000%.
work?
Yes, I'm always pitching stories. So I just did a really great story on this NFL player, Alex Smith, who fractured his leg, and then he almost died actually as a result. He was going to have to amputate it. He decided to rehab it. Now he's back on the field, and he started a clothing line all about having a good attitude, and he's donating the proceeds to veterans. So stories like that. So I'm always pitching, and some I'm assigned, but I do have an editorial say.
I love that. That's boss power, y'all. You have to have an editorial say wherever you go. Dating. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit dating in New York City, Chanel in the city.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how you balance it all. God bless you going through the divorce, then being on national TV. Was that hard for you, knowing that you were, at one minute you're reporting the news and you're interviewing people about their love life or breakups, and now people are talking about in the news about your love life and breakup? Was that hard for you? Because I remember as your friend going through it with you off camera, you didn't really want to talk about it anyway.
It was hard. You try to think that you can be strong and compartmentalize, but to your point, when everybody's always asking you what's going on, that is very, very, very hard. And eventually you develop a tough skin. And at the time when you're going through so much hurt, you don't want to talk about it, but you can't ask for it both ways. You can't be a public person and then say, oh, but give me my privacy here. So I just learned you just have to go through it. You just got to make it through it. I have great friends like you that were really supportive. And time heals everything. So as time went on, it's taken me years. Now I can talk about it without crying.
Yeah. Yes, I know. And yeah, and you give us the best advice, by the way. Everyone loved your video when you did the Instagram video with me about the tips in New York, how to date. What would you say for me, still single? How embarrassing. 36, still single.
Not embarrassing.
Alicia, never been married, never been engaged.
All right, girl. That just means your Mr. Special is just waiting for you. That's all it means.
I hope from your mouth to God's ears. What do you think we need to do, though, as women? What do we need to do more of to keep a guy?
Ooh, that's a good question.
To keep him around.
I think we need to, that's a good question. I think we need to rephrase that question. What does he need to do more of to stay? You know what I mean? Like, instead of saying, what do we need to do more of? Like pandering to men? No, I'm going to show you who I am. I'm going to show you what I bring to the table. Are you worthy of me? So I think we have to flip the question. I need to tell you what I need from you. And if you can bring that, fine. And if not, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to move on. So I think women have to decide sooner. We don't need to beg some dude. Guess what? There's 50,000 penises in the sea. Bye. Go to the next one.
That's amazing. I love that. What would be, a listener wants to know what your advice would be when you want to transition. Let's say you don't have any experience to be on camera host. Mm-hmm. Should you ever take no for an answer? Should you still keep on going? So a lot of people tell us, oh, you don't have comedy background, you shouldn't be a comedian. Oh, you don't have journalistic background, you shouldn't be a host. What do you say to the naysayers?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think you need to ask yourself some honest questions. Are they just saying that because they're haters, or am I not good at this? Because, I could want to be an actress all I want. I'm not good at it. So unless I go to a coach and put in the work. So are you actually decent at this? Could you actually do this? And if you want to do it, then do you have the money to maybe get an on-air coach? Are you going to put together a reel? Do you have, start reaching out to people. It's free to reach out to people that you want to mentor you. Harass people if you need to. Get your foot in the door.
I love that, right? Get your foot in the door. Or, and also you've been very open. You give a lot of tips on your social media. So for everybody listening, make sure you follow Alicia at Alicia Quarles on all social media platforms, because you also give great tips. They're free on your Insta story. They can talk to you. I think that, and watch you. I think the best advice is watch someone like you in action.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot by watching you. Even my mom, she's a big fan, by the way. She sends her love.
Hi,
She's a
Mom.
big fan of yours. She's always like, that Alicia Quarles, she's so classy. She's so smart. She knows her stuff. You could tell when somebody does their research, and then you could tell when somebody just
This is true. There are no
makes it
shortcuts.
up. And when I realized that is when I went with you, we did a red carpet, and I think it was for Star Shop. And it was really, I saw the differentiation between when you interviewed Ben Stiller and Jennifer Lawrence. And I remember I said, this is why we hired you as a host, and why we couldn't just have anybody do it, because they wouldn't know, or just to ask that question,
Thank you. There is an art to it. Like, people think you just get out there and you're having fun. I study those people on red carpets like I'm going, like it's a college exam. Like, I deep dive, because to your point, people are asking the same questions, but if you've actually done your research, you can get a much better interview.
Who would you say was your greatest influence in journalism?
Ooh, my greatest influence in
TV hosting. Yeah, I guess.
I would say actually Christiane Amanpour. I believe it or not, I'm so far from it now. I wanted to be a foreign, war correspondent, and I just thought she was such a badass on CNN. Loved her. I love the humanity of Oprah, just the relatability. I think Gayle King's been kicking butt lately with her interviews. Barbara Walters is always my top. So I guess women really have influenced me, and of course Katie Couric.
So talking about that, like looking at all these women and their influences, but then you have Alicia Quarles, where you have your own technique. What inspires you behind that technique? So what goes behind preparing, because I know you're not just getting on that camera and saying, hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to just talk about the weather today. There's a technique. So what's the Alicia Quarles technique, I would ask?
So if I'm interviewing somebody, it's like a ton of preparation. So, I'll do research packets. My producers will. I mean, I want to know the date you were born on. I want to know your favorite color. Like, I really want to deep dive. That's for one-on-one interviews. If I'm on prompter, it's just, making sure you just read through it a couple of times. I tend to speak fast, so that's my Achilles. Just make sure I'm reading at a good pace where viewers can understand me. And then ultimately, the ultimate package is just have fun. Whatever you're delivering, that camera is your friend. People at home don't want to turn on TV and see that you're annoyed, see that you're having a bad day. Deliver the news, but deliver it with some humanity and just be who you are.
I love that. Any favorite news story you've recently want to share?
Oh my gosh, it's been such a crazy news cycle lately. Lord,
yeah,
okay, let me think.
There has been, yeah.
Let me think. Okay, that Four Seasons Trump rally was kind of funny. That was I'll give that one. That was funny. Oh my God, what's been my favorite? Let me get back to that, because I know there's been some good ones lately.
Yeah, think about that. Any Chanel in the City favorite places in the New York City where you go and you just escape to and you love to go when you're in New York?
Yes. Okay, so there's a restaurant, Avra, where it's just, Avra is in Midtown East. It is just great, bougie, people sighting.
Oh, I heard of Avra. I gotta go. Okay, I want to take you there. Let's go and celebrate.
We gotta go. With Dolores from Dolores Catania, we'll go. We had the best
Jersey.
Time. Yeah, that's my girl. So we will go.
Let's do it.
It's love just one of those New York moments. We will go.
So yeah, Avra. So that's one of like the hot spots. That's why I love when people come on the podcast, also dish on like, their favorite places, anything that you also get inspired to write or do any creative, anywhere to go.
Yeah. You know what? So lately, I really, since we've all been stuck in the house lately, I'm over it. So I've been walking bridges. It sounds crazy.
You're like, girl, I'm over it.
This sounds like really crazy. I've been walking bridges. I walked the Brooklyn Bridge, the Queensboro Bridge.
For real? That's not crazy. That's so good for your mental health.
It's good for your mental health. It's just good to see people out. I'm just awed by like this architecture, and it really helps like to get my creative juices flowing.
I'm sure, and probably your endorphins. I mean, like that is such a good idea for people to do. They're just
while the weather's still nice, it's been fun. So just get outside and walk.
I love it. Who was your favorite housewife to interview? Because we know you're friends with all the housewives. Anyone from any of the franchise, who was your favorite?
Oh God, I love them all. I love me a Dorinda. I'm like, Dolores is, come on, I gotta go with Dolores. That's my ride or die.
We love Dolores. You know, I love her too. She's my girl too. You know what? We're just so alike. Alicia, thank you so much for being on Chanel in the City. We love you. We are wishing you so much luck on Good Morning America 3. We're going to see you. We're going to watch you. We're cheering for you. Let us know when we could check you out on Daily Mail and your website and where everybody could follow you.
You can check me out Monday through Friday on Daily Mail TV. You can check me out on Good Morning America 3 and on social media at Alicia L. Quarles. Hi guys, it's Alicia Quarles, and you're tuning in to me on my girl Chanel Omari's Chanel in the City podcast.